Hi guys, so welcome to the second chapter, using inverse operations. In this lecture, we basically use flowcharts to help us organize more difficult equations. We basically just get used to the idea of flowcharts. The very first number in a flowchart is known as the input number, while the very last number is known as the output number. What we need to know about a flowchart is that we can go backwards and forwards. So, forwards in a flowchart being that direction, backwards being that direction, so going to the left. When we go forward, we're basically going through the process of constructing an equation, while when we go backwards, we're basically deconstructing it back down to the original input number. When we work backwards, this is the process of doing inverse operations. So let's have a look at the flowchart here as an example. We start off with the input number of 6, then the flowchart guides us pretty easily. So we have plus 5 to the next box, which gives us an 11. Then we do take away 3, right there, which gives us an 8. Then we do divided by 4, which gives us the final answer, which is the number 2. Now, as we said, our final the digit in the flowchart is known as the output number. So, we also discussed the process of going backwards in a flowchart. So we just went forwards. So backwards, we simply reverse the signs. Now, as we know, the opposite of a division is a multiplication. So we basically do times 4 going backwards. So 2 times 4 gives us back to that 8. Minus 3 was the part going forward. Then it's plus 3 going back. So 8 plus 3 gives us that 11 again. And then instead of plus 5, we're doing minus 5 going backwards, which then returns us back to the original input number of 6. So guys, let's work through a few questions here to get our minds working around how flowcharts work. Alrighty, so let's have a look at this question. It tells us to complete the following flowcharts to find the output number. Now, as we just learned, the output number is simply the number that we get at the end of a flowchart, while the very first number is known as the input number. So let's work our way through the very first question. It says 8 as the input number. Then the very first operation in the flowchart is timesing by 2. So 8 times 2 gives us 16. Then we add 4, so we go plus 4. So 16 plus 4 gives us 20. Then we take that number and we divide it by 5, which goes 4. So 8 is the input number, while 4 gives us the output number as we work our way through these three operations. Let's do part B. 4 plus 3 gives us 7, times 2 gives us 14, and then minus 6 brings us back down to 8. So our input number was 4, then we went through these three operations, which then ended up giving us an output number of 8. So guys, it's a pretty straightforward thing, as you can see. So what I want you to do, have a go at the very final question on your own. Alrighty, so I hope you've had an opportunity to pause the lecture and have a go at this question yourself. So first up, we have 10 as the input number, divided by 2 gives us 5, plus 4 gives us 9, and then minus 9 gives us a 0. So our input number was 10. We went through three different operations here, which gave us the output number of 0. Alright, so let's move to the next question. Alrighty guys, so let's have a look at these three flowcharts now and work out this particular question. It says use backtracking and inverse operations to find the input number in the following flowcharts. So as we learned at the start of this lecture, inverse operations basically just means going back down the actual flowchart to find our original input number. So as the difference between the first question we did and this question is that in the first question we had the input number and then we had to go forwards or to the right of the flowchart to find the output number. In this case, we've been given the output number and we need to work our way to the left to find the original input number. So we have 7. We have to do the opposite of plus 6, and the opposite of plus is obviously minus, which gives us 7 minus 6 brings us back to 1. Then the next operation is times by 2, because we have divided by 2 on top, so the opposite would be times by 2. So 1 times 2 gives us 2. And then finally, we have minus 2, which is simply the opposite of the plus 2 at the top there. Then 2 minus 2 gives us the input value of 0. And guys, again, good thing about linear equations is we can always check our answers. So why don't we work our way through the flowchart to the right hand side and see if we end up with the answer of 7. So we're starting with 0, plus 2 gives us 2, divided by 2 gives us 1, plus 6 gives us 7. So we know that the input answer that we got of 0 is correct. Okay, same thing, let's move to part B. We have the output number of 15, and the very last operation that they did was times by 5. So if we had to do the opposite, we would go divided by 5. So 15 divided by 5 gives us 3. Then the next operation is divided by 3 on the top. So the bottom one has to be multiplied by 3. So the opposite. 3 times 3 gives us a 9. Then again, working our way to the very beginning, we have plus 8 at the top. So it has to be minus 8 at the bottom. So 9 minus 8 gives us 1. And then finally, we have divided by 10 at the top. So it has to be times by 10 at the bottom. So 1 times 10 gives us the number 10. So our input value for the part B is the number 10. So guys, again, let's work our way to the right-hand side to see if we end up with 15 as our output number as we work our way through the different operations. So starting with 10, we go divided by 10 gives us 1, plus 8 gives us 9, divided by 3 gives us 3, times 5, hey, gives us that 15. So we know that the input value that we got of 10 is correct. So guys, just like we always do, let's pause the video at this stage and have a go at part C on your own to see if you can find that input number there. Alrighty, so I hope you had the opportunity to pause the video and have a go at this question yourself. So we have an output number of 2, and we are now going to backtrack down this flowchart in order to find our input number. So we have divided by 6 at the top, so we get times by 6 at the bottom. 2 times 6 gives us 12. Working our way backwards, we have times 4 becomes divided by 4. So 12 divided by 4 gives us the number 3. And again, going backwards, 3 minus 7 becomes plus 7 at the bottom. So 3 plus 7 is 10. And then finally, we have minus 4 at the bottom to reverse the plus 4 at the top. And we end up with a 6. So our input number, guys, for this question is the number 6. Now let's verify it. Again, going to the right, we have 6 plus 4 giving us 10, minus 7 gives us 3, times 4 gives us 12, and finally divided by 6 gives us the output number of 2. So we know that the input number of 6 that we got earlier is correct. So guys, that brings us to the end of the using inverse operations chapter. So as you can see, it's a fairly straightforward method to work with flowcharts. In the next chapter, we're going to look at building up expressions. So in this particular chapter, we use flowcharts to just work with numbers. As we can see, there were no letters involved. However, in the next one, we'll involve letters and see how that works.